a Sunday afternoon. I appreciate it very much, and let's hear a nice welcome for our Secretary of Education. As you know, we have a Secretary of Education who was a former superintendent of schools in Chicago, was a very innovative leader of the public school system in Chicago, and it has been a real pleasure to work with the Secretary over the last year and going into this year with the authorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is what I asked you to come here to discuss with us. Let me introduce two of my fellow public servants who are here, sitting right in front, Senator Stacey Apple, and also Representative Wayne Ford. And did I miss anybody that is here that's elected officials? Anybody want to be in public office? Yeah, not this year. Listen, and we have a panel here, and the Secretary has to catch a plane. I know he has to get out of here, I think right at 4, if I'm not mistaken. He's got to be out of here. I'll stick around for a little bit after that. But I want to thank the panel for being here. I'll just make a couple of statements. I'll keep it very short, and have the Secretary make a couple of statements. I'd like to ask some of our panelists just to kind of set the stage a little bit, but I have every intention of opening the mic and getting as much input from you here as possible. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act is, I think, going to be one of the most significant things that we can do. It's on our plate. I have had the first hearing on it in my committee this last week. We have several more, and we're hoping to get this job done this year. But we need your input, your advice, your suggestions on what should be in there and how should we change No Child Left Behind. So let me just make a couple of comments on this. I won't go through all of this, but it's safe to say that I think there were a lot of things in No Child Left Behind that I liked. I have to support it at the time, but there are some things we saw as we went along that the Secretary will speak about that need to be changed, and we need to do a better job of in the future. I can't think of anything more important for the economic future of this country than elementary and secondary education. Remember, Jackie Kennedy once said that if we mess up raising and educating our kids, nothing else much matters very much. And I think that just about sums it up. So I'm not going to go through all my things here. Just thank all of you. I think we have our educators who are here. Let me just see, I introduced a couple elected officials. How many people are here who are superintendents, principals, teachers, school board members involved in education? Let me ask you that. Well, let's hear a hand, folks. Well, thank you very much, and without further ado, our great Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan.
Thank you so much. And usually we go around, we're trying to sell people on how important education is. I think we're preaching to the choir here, so I'll skip that part. And just say that I think we have an extraordinary opportunity to take education to the next level. I think No Child Left Behind put a spotlight on achievement gaps and just aggregating data, which was extraordinarily important. We used to like to sweep those tough conversations under the rug. I think it did some things to protect students with disabilities and get them the support and resources they need. But there are many things I think, frankly, that didn't work in No Child Left Behind. I think the law was far too punitive. I thought it was great at blaming folks, but not about pointing out success. I think the law was far too prescriptive and tried to micromanage things from Washington. I always joke, before I went to Washington, I didn't think Washington had all the good ideas, and now that I'm in Washington, I know it doesn't have all the good ideas. The good ideas are always going to come from great principals, great teachers, parents, school board members, superintendents at the local level. I think No Child Left Behind had the unintended consequence of lowering standards, lowering the bar. Many states dumbing down standards due to not what's right educationally, not what's right for our economy, our national security. It did it due to political pressure. And politics did not help in that situation. And what I've heard constantly, everywhere I've gone, urban, rural, suburban, I've been to 37 states, is a huge concern from teachers and parents and principals about a narrowing of the curriculum on No Child Left Behind. And so I think we can fix a lot of stuff that hasn't worked. We can raise the bar, have high standards, common college and career-ready standards across the country. Every child should be shooting for a high bar. And the leadership for this is not being provided by Washington. It's being provided by 48 governors, 48 school chiefs who are working hard together. They're doing a phenomenal job. That needs to continue. We need to reward excellence, reward success. There are great teachers, great principals, great schools, great school systems, great states who are beating the odds every single day. And no one learns from them, no one recognizes them, no one rewards them. And I think that has to fundamentally change. The example I like to give is under if you were a sixth grade teacher under No Child Left Behind, and a child came to you 3 grade levels behind, if that child left you a grade behind, under NCLB you were labeled a failure, and your school was labeled a failure. I think not only are you not a failure, you're not just a good teacher, you're an extraordinary teacher. And if that child is gaining 2 years of growth, gain for 1 year's instruction, you're a hero. We should be learning from you. We should be recognizing that. We should be figuring out what you're doing right. And so we want to highlight success and highlight excellence. I'm much more interested in growth and gain and improvement than I am in absolute test scores. And we're driving up graduation rates. Our students improving every single year. And so many children around the country are coming to school dealing with extraordinarily tough things in their neighborhoods, in their homes, in their communities. And where students are still achieving at high levels, we've got a lot to learn there. We have to increase local flexibility. We can't micromanage 100,000 schools in Washington. We shouldn't be micromanaging 100,000 schools. We should give a lot more autonomy, flexibility, let local educators innovate, be creative, hold folks accountable for results, but give them the space to move and to be creative. And I think we need to get out of the way in a lot of places. And then finally, we have to think about how we help create a well-rounded curriculum. We're trying to put a huge amount of resources, adding $100 million to that pot of money. And so yes, reading and math are hugely important, but so is science, so is social studies, PE, art, music, band, all those things. Unfortunately, those things that we know all of our children need to develop their unique skills and their passions. Those things often the first things that get cut when budgets are tough, and we have to find ways to fight against that. But I think we have a huge opportunity to break through here. The final thing I'll say is that I just publicly want to thank Senator Harkin for his extraordinary leadership. What I've seen him accomplish in this past year is simply remarkable. He is passionate. And just watching him lead this committee has been just an absolute lesson in leadership for me. We're here today to talk about K-12. We're also trying to push very hard to get a lot more money for higher education. Pell Grants, Perkins loans. We're trying to do more early childhood education. There's a bill now that's passed the House coming before the Senate. This thing, as of Wednesday morning or Thursday morning, was dead. It was absolutely dead. I was like heartbroken. And somehow by the middle of the day, Senator Harkin and Chairman Miller from the House had somehow revived this. And we're still fighting, every single hour. Let's change it by the hour. But it's just important for the public here to know that not just for the children of Iowa, but for children around the country, we have an absolute champion here, and I feel so lucky to have a chance to work with him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, for those kind words, and I'll respond in kind. I just can't tell all of you what a great person we have in Arne Duncan. I mean, he gets it. I have been waiting a long time. I've been on this committee for 23 years for a secretary to talk about a well-rounded education, and that we just can't throw the arts and the music and literature and stuff overboard. That this is extremely important for the well-rounded development of our children, and the fact that we need to have more flexibility. I've stolen his word. He said we got to be tough on goals, tight on goals, and loose on means. I think that's great, because it's through the innovation and creativity of local schools and stuff that we innovate. We find new ideas how to do things. But I agree with the Secretary. We've got to be pretty tough on the goals, and we've got to have good accountability. As he said, we've got to reward growth, not just how close are you getting to some unattainable goal, but how much have you grown. And to hear him talk about that, just I tell you, it feels great. And we just got to get this.